Hello. It's day 18. So today there are like two ideas that I really want to talk about. First is this idea of what I am dubbing adjunct loneliness. Adjunct loneliness. That is the idea. And the other is about the momentum of creation and the excitement that comes alongside that. So I feel like those two things don't really have much in common, but let's see how I tie them together. I don't even know how. But when it comes to this idea of adjunct loneliness, I gave it a very brief descriptor on one of the many videos that I spammed on my TikTok. But something that I've done a lot in this series is talk about how I am a lonely person. And I was for a very long time. But as I have grown and as my confidence has developed, my loneliness in its classical form has faded away. And what I'm left with now is a deep, ever-pervading appreciation and love for myself that I have never attained prior, right? So what am I really meaning by this, and why does this self-love that I'm operating under, why do I classify that as something that is lonely? Well, when I am appreciating myself and loving my existence and loving my expression, loving my thinking, loving everything that I'm doing about myself, loving the all-encompassing nature of how I am literally just being myself and existing in the synergy between my mind and my body, it is a lonely feeling. It's an isolating feeling because I am existing at such a level of self-intimacy with myself, with how I'm loving myself in every facet, that it's lonely because nobody else could ever love me like this. You get me? It's lonely because nobody, no thing can ever make me feel this good, this confident, this appreciated. Nothing could ever make me feel as satisfied as I make myself. And that is the loneliness that I refer to now currently. It's not a loneliness that has any sort of negative connotation. It is a loneliness to the degree of I love myself so much that nothing can compare. You get me? And I call this adjunct loneliness literally because I searched up what the definition of adjunct was. Hold on, let me double check, because I was like, when I was on my car ride home back from work, I was thinking about this idea, and it really came to me that I don't think that there is an accurate word that could describe this feeling. The English language is quite stifled in the sorts of expressions that we can really talk about, especially for the emotional depths that exist for our humanity. You know, we've gone through so many layers of trying to divide our psyche, to trying to divide our body into so many layers, but we still can't even accurately describe the own depths of our love, which is ridiculous, isn't it? That's something that's really missing. And I really feel like because of that lack of description of care, we see it in how the rest of our society doesn't know how to care for each other as well. Our language is very good at deconstructing what is around us, but it's not very good at recognizing what can be constructed for us. All right. But back to the definition of adjunct. So this is what I'm using. I'm going to maybe put a screenshot as well, depending on how well that came out. But there are 3 definitions, 2 for the noun of it and 1 for the adjective. Of the noun aspect, the first is a thing added to something else as a supplementary rather than an essential part. So like computer technology is an adjunct to learning. And the second is a word or phrase used to amplify or modify the meaning of another word or words in a sentence. And using it as an adjective, the definition is connected or added to something, typically in an auxiliary way. So like the example sentence for the adjective would be other alternative or adjunct therapies include immunotherapy. And the sample sentence for the first definition of the supplementary rather is I said that. But yeah, so when I'm talking about adjunct loneliness, this is going by the second noun definition of it, of using the word to modify and amplify the definition of loneliness, right? So whenever I'm talking about loneliness, I am referring to my new word. I just fucking made a word, y'all. Adjunct loneliness. That's something really important, and like there's no reason why we can't take this time to further the depths of our understanding for how we can also control the language around us as well. Yeah, that's really what it is about, because I feel like I'm going to be referring to myself as a lonely person a lot, and I'm a very happy person. You know, I feel like my mind it operates in a lot of contradictions, but it does it like that because the contradiction is where my growth is stemmed from. The complete balance of understanding the positive and negative aspects of myself, right? So like something that I really like is when people hate on me. Weird, right? But when you are met with hate and anger and derision like that, there are 2 results that you can learn from it. The first is genuine critique of who you are and how your expression is affecting others. And the other is of knowing that anger and derision, that hatred, is born out of someone else's mind to paint you in a different light, right? And with how that anger is communicated to you, you can draw that difference, right? So whenever I am met with that type of anger, even though it does hurt, I'm not gonna lie. Last time I got like real genuine hate, that shit lingered on my mind for a week and I did cry about it. But like I learned from it, right? And it was a very important experience to me because I recognized that my expression isn't something that's palatable for everybody, and that's okay. And that's not my issue, you know? So that's that. So when it comes to this idea of adjunct loneliness, I think that there's also a certain type of loving momentum that carries you with it. And what I mean with that is when you're at this apex in your self-love and understanding the necessity of balancing out how you express yourself, you realize that you need ample time for selfishness as well as selflessness. And a very simple way we can understand that is through creative expression, right? So when you are publishing anything, no matter what it is, you get excited now that you're creating something and you want to push that out there, right? And then after you create something, you want to keep going and doing more and more and more. And you get really ambitious and confident in yourself. But you need to also rest so you can continue to do that, right? Because your momentum won't dissipate immediately, even with rest, right? Our bodies can only continue through so much. Like even right now, there's a piece of me that just wants to jump on doing these other projects that I'm doing. But I know that I need to let my mind and body breathe with a certain rhythm so I can get to it effectively. And that's the most important aspect of it all, isn't it? So the momentum of creativity is something that all artists know. When I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking of it as like one of them funnels where you have the marble going in and it's just going around it, kind of like a solar system. No, I mean, yeah, kind of. And then it gets faster and faster and faster and faster, and then, right? That is the creative process in a very short physical metaphor, I suppose, right? When you're first getting everything together, it takes a lot of time to bring it all in. It takes a lot of effort, and it starts off slow. But as you go along the process, as you build more and as you cultivate more, you'll get better and better and faster and faster and faster. And then before you know it, it's created, right? That's what you shoot out. But the ambition that we see in ourselves, it changes how we interact with this, right? So take this series for example, right? I got 2 hands to make it, but I have like several different funnels going on at once, and it takes me physically moving that marble a peg down the swivel to create it. And it's just a push, a push, a push. And this is the importance of focus and rest, right? We're kind of like Sisyphus, but it's creative expression, because even though you will create and finish one project, well, just because you do one, you got to do another, right? So you push, 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 and just keep going and going and going. And it's just like, will it ever end? No, but you're enjoying it, right? But yeah, like I've had a lot of self-introspection, especially with doing this new gym routine at 3 a.m. I just put myself into a new funnel, basically. You know, I wasn't sure about it, but I realized the funnel that I was in previously just wouldn't work with the expression that I needed to do. I couldn't push these balls far enough in such a manner that I could complete the tasks at hand, because I just didn't have the will to push in it like that yet. Not until I had the will to change how my own life was flowing, how my own life was circulating, could I find the willpower to enact the change for that. And that's the most important aspect of this entire thing, right? So yes, this is a series of 60 days of ambidexterity, but this is honestly a series of ambidexterously living my life. switching from one way of living into another, and you're watching my journey beside that. Like I said at the beginning of the series, I love capturing the process of things, and with my projects of the future, you will see that as well. I'm a firm believer that all art has its audience. Maybe it's not even in that artist's lifetime, like we see with like Van Gogh type pieces, but all art will be seen, even if we don't know who it is for in particular. What matters is that expression has been put out there. And I also believe that if you refuse to act on the artistic expression that is yearning to be expressed by you, it'll go to someone else that is willing to live that type of life. We all have a choice, and you control how you live. Oops. So let's get into writing for today. I really enjoyed just going from the book to the journal, just back to back, just one long session. So we're going to do that again, and I may or may not talk after. Hello again. So that was a pretty good writing session. We got a lot of work done. We're just under page 100, and with everything there, the rest of the book honestly seems pretty chill. And as long as I'm continuing at this pace, I think we'll be done pretty soon. But what was actually going through my mind while I was writing about this was these ideas that I've been talking about and proposing, and how they can exist under capitalist society and the capitalist frameworks that we have been coerced and forced into participating in. Right, because there was this moment where I was talking with my uncle, And he was just like, he's a capitalist realist, pretty much. I'm not gonna lie, and maybe it's because of my youth that I am being led by such strong hope. But basically, he was telling me that inevitably you must conform if you want to survive. And like, he's not wrong, right? But I think with where we are at with this junction of recognizing the harm that this overindulgence in capitalist culture has put upon us, we're at this point where we have to really make a choice about how we want to participate. And being youthful, we are the ones that are going to have to do the work to make the new world, because those that have come before us got comfortable, complacent, and were murdered and locked away for being othered. So I think there's these ideas that I'm proposing, they're nothing new. They definitely have been written about in some book before. It's something along those lines, right? But when we talk about adjunct loneliness, we talk about labor of love, and these ideas that really go over the importance of loving thyself. It is particularly important because for capitalism to continuously function, the consumer cannot love themselves. You get me? The consumer under capitalism is never satisfied with who they are and must always be satiated by a material means to try and fill the void that exists within their heart and mind. Because the work that is needed to be done to fulfill themselves cannot be accomplished because of the amount of labor that is exercised into things that don't justify their existence. So like, what do I mean by this? When we think about our modern day, like, American laborer, they work 40 hours a week, maybe more if they are really grinding for overtime. Most likely more, because most of us are living paycheck to paycheck. So you're barely surviving, barely making ends meet, and the world around you is crumbling. How am I supposed to be satisfied with who I am as an individual? I go on the internet and I see people doing far less, making far more, living far more comfortably. And you're telling me to love myself? How am I supposed to do that? What's the feasibility of that? What's the reality of that? Where is the hope in that? And that's challenging. It's heartbreaking. But the hope that I'm operating under was born out of my own need to live a different life than the one that I had saw set before me. This is going to be a shift, but I was 8 years old when I had my first thought of suicide. It was in this room, actually. I took a leather belt and tied it around my neck and made it as tight as possible. And I tried jumping off of that bit right there. That keeps the blinds on. And I realized that hurt a lot, and I didn't much like that, but that ache in me still existed. And there was always this lingering part in the back of my head that was like, I'll just kill myself after I'm 18. After I graduate, I'll just kill myself. And then you know what I did? I didn't, and I had no plan for my life. And depressed in my college dorm room, I just wanted to be happy. And I went on this long journey of self-reflection and understanding to figure out, what does it mean to be happy, and how can I live a life of happiness? And now we're here because it is my self-expression that makes me happy. But it's not just that in its own. It is fully embodying boundless love for myself. And it comes with a lot of pain associated with it. But it also takes a lot of accountability and patience and the will to grow and change, to see a better tomorrow for yourself. When I think about the idea of conformity for comfort, I think of that as the lazy way of existing. And even though right now we see it everywhere, the retaliation against this type of conformity, I don't think it's still to a point where it's really ringing deeply to the fullest effect in many of our hearts. Just because we can still conform, I think a lot of us still think that way out for something easy is still an avenue. And I think it's something that we should abandon and do the hard work, do the hard option to make something better for tomorrow. With how the internet has infected our minds, in particular, the community that existed in between us interpersonally has slowly been erased. And even if it wasn't initially on purpose, it became something that was purposeful. And the reaction of this is a generation and generations that are missing that group intimacy, right? And something specifically that I want to talk about is how this relates to young men. I think a lot of men deep down recognize that in nature, it is those that are the masculine aspect of a species tend to be the ones that are not needed. And that's isolating. And when you kind of see that pattern played out over and over again, there's a piece of you that might make you want to go like, do I not matter? And it's like, that's lonely, that's isolating. And ultimately, I think where this, that's where the patriarchy stems out of, the fear of being useless, the fear of being not needed, the fear of powerlessness. And it's just like a complete rejection of all of that, and it becomes violent. It's just a violent outburst against this feeling that is equally as intangible, because we control our lives. I don't know who's gonna watch this. Hopefully listen to everything I have to say. But when you take that type of fear and hone in on it and try to mold the minds of young men around that, you can make the perfect soldier in a way to do your bidding, because they'll think it's a righteous cause, because I've been ostracized against whatever group they're sending me to go be violent against. But that ache in your heart, that loneliness will still exist, because the camaraderie that you've built hasn't been built on love. It's been built on hate. It's been built on rejection. The same thing you were trying to run away from, you emboldened. You didn't heal. You just became the thing you were trying to heal from. And we see that now, especially on the internet, with like the manosphere and like that red pill pipeline and everything. It's just it's the same pattern of making these young, vulnerable men feel bad about themselves and not do the work to learn how to love themselves and learn the intimacy that is needed so that they can become the best version of themselves that doesn't exist within these chains of thought that still keeps them small, ultimately scared to express themselves to the fullest extent, no matter how that looks, because it's profitable. Right? I was talking about it a little bit this morning on my TikTok. And then one of the many videos that I just spammed, but I think that most men can love very, very, very deeply. And not just that, they want to be loved just as deeply, But I think that most men don't know how to love themselves to that depth first. And it's hard. How do you do that? Many of us would say like, oh, that's what our father is supposed to teach us, to teach us how to be a man, blah, blah, blah. But to be a man is an answer that is self-determined. However you answer that question explains how you will exist in the society around you. That makes sense? And recognizing this self-deterministic framework, it becomes easy to see that most men don't want to be self-determined. They want to be told that this is the way, because that self-determination, that type of freedom is scary to deal with, because you have to be held accountable to your own actions. And what's scarier than accountability? That's a human issue, right? You gotta say, I fucked up. I was a bad person. And I apologize. And you may not be forgiven. But that's what comes with it. This is the pain of trying to grow. To be the best version of you is to forgive your past actions and grow up. Honestly. So, why did I harp on men? Because it is men that have the power under this patriarchal system right now. And even though it is a collective issue to yearn for change, it is men that must want it just as equally as everybody else. What does it mean to be the best version of you? When you go into a place like the gym, are you just in there to improve your body and be muscular and be vain? Or are you in there to really hone your mind as well? Sharpen who you are. Know that through struggle, through the thick and thin of it, you can discipline yourself and fight for a better tomorrow. Like, what do you want out of your life? It is lonely to be alive, ultimately. And it is lonely to love. And that is why it is important to love yourself to the fullest, even when you doubt yourself. So, be better for yourself, ultimately. This idea of adjunct loneliness, it's pervaded me for a very long time, and I think it's what set me free from my own mental prisons, my own mental turbulence, because even in the face of doubt, I love myself, and nobody can take that away. I'll see you tomorrow.